This is an Admiral 19A1 chassis. This is a 7JP4 electrostatic deflection set. These are pretty popular to work on. They're small, and when they work pretty good. Very collectible because they're so small and portable. Motorola, of course, made a suitcase version of this. And this belongs to a younger collector who's in the area. And he's really growing and getting much better at this stuff, and it's really kind of awesome to watch him. He completely recapped this. I do see we have a missing tube here. I already looked. That is a 6AU6. I'll have to dig one of those up. His complaint is that it works, but he cannot get the vertical linearity and sync to work right. And this is perfect because I wanted to address this and do some experimentation with this. I have a feeling, because I've seen this issue pop up before with other collectors, and Bob Anderson, who's kind of the master of these things, verified it, that disc capacitors don't quite work right in these sets. And he suggested going 10 times bigger. So these are the vertical plate deflection capacitors, and they're supposed to be 5,000 picofarads or 0.005. And what he has done here is they're 6 kilovolts. And what he's done is he's put 5 1,000 picofarad 6 kilovolt disc capacitors in parallel, and these are the horizontal. They're just straight up 1,000 or 0.001 microfarad, and he's recapped all of the rest of this, and it looks pretty good. I believe he probably picked up most of these parts at our local electronics store, which has some surplus stuff. That's why you see these really short leads that he had to J-hook. But other than that, his work seems like it's getting much better. I've sorted out radios and stuff for him that he's been stuck on, and it really seems like he's improving. I went over some of this with the schematic. I printed the schematic out, but I forgot it. So I'll have to go probably dig the book out. The reason why they put resistors in series like this is to get the voltage up, because resistors only have a certain voltage tolerance unless you buy the high voltage ones. So instead of using one, let's see, this is basically 2, 4, 6, 8. So instead of using one 10 meg, they're using 4 2.2 megs and dividing the voltage drop across the resistors. Now you could just put one 10 meg, but you'd have to go with the series of resistor that's made to handle that kind of voltage drop across it. So I don't know what was originally disc in here and what was originally film. These were originally paper. The deflection capacitors were 6,000 volt paper, and of course they're leaky and garbage. Looks like he's got the old one out of circuit there, right? Yeah, okay, that looks okay. This looks okay. Soldering could use a little work there. You should try and, but all in all, definitely looks like there is some improvement. That could probably have been replaced. but it's kind of not to touch anything. So yeah, this wire is sort of, this is, yeah, that should probably be covered or something, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm definitely not here to criticize anybody's work. Maybe a little commentary, but that joint right there, that resistor could have been wrapped around there to create a physical bond first. Okay, I'll shut up now. So what we want to do is we want to, well, actually, I have one of these that was restored and that works pretty well, that I bought at the swap meet some years ago. And I think the first thing I want to do, I believe it was restored with disc capacitors. I want to pull it out and see what tricks they did. You know, do you double, if you're going to use disc capacitors, do you double the value? Do you triple it? That's what this video seeks to find out. Or are disc capacitors just a no-go in general? This is my Admiral 19A1, and it's in a Bakelite. They come in a Bakelite case. And let's disassemble this because I'm pretty sure I remember this having disc capacitors in it too. I didn't restore this. I bought it at the swap meet working, and I use it to test these 7-inch CRTs, and it works fine with no linearity issues. All right, so here's looking inside mine. And again, I did not do this work. I bought it like this. And they are using disc capacitors, and this one's not even connected. That's a 0047 at 6 kilovolts. So let's see what they're using. This is the vertical, right? Okay, so what we got here is a 01 at 3 kilovolts, and they flipped them over. They got the lettering on opposite sides. Now I don't see why that would matter, but we have 201. So 01 in series with 01 would equal 005, right? Okay, so what these are is these are 1000 at, yeah, good solder job. These are 1000 at, use a damn phone as a magnifying glass, 3 kilovolts. So they're doing 2 in series. They're doing 2 in series with 2 in parallel with 2 in series. So this equals, these 4 equal 0. These, yeah, they equal 001 at 6 kilovolts. So this is interesting. This set works fine with these capacitors like this. There is no linearity issues with this setup. And then down here again, they have 01 at 3 kilovolts in series with the same flipped over. So looking this over, I don't see anything standing out as wrong, except this. This is questionable. I wonder how much that radiates, you know, massive pulses on this being anyway. Probably not much more than that. That's the appropriate film replacement right there. Not sure why he didn't just, maybe those things are super expensive. Maybe, I'm not sure why he didn't just use film all the way across. But I would like to get to the bottom of the disc issue, because like I said, they work fine in my set. And they're ideal because they're cheap. You can buy the Russian ones now for 25 cents a piece or something. So I have some of those. Ooh, Meltomatic. I need to find a 6AU6 and then we'll get this fired up. All right, let's see. Oh, wow. That is bad. Wow, you could practically walk through those lines. And look at how it's compressed at the bottom. I'm hooked up to the generator here, but I'm not getting anything. Yes, I did replace that 6AU6. Although the one I put in there, oh, all of a sudden it woke up. Oh yeah, that's an absolutely amazingly awesome crosshatch pattern. Look at that. Wow, that's epic. It almost looks like it's got filter hum in it. See that? That looks like filter hum. It's like twerking. Slow action twerking. Well, let me see if I can adjust it. We have quite a bit of flexibility here with controls. Alright, I really need a tripod for this crap. No have tripod right now, but let me try and see what... Ow! That's 5U4 just burned my frickin' arm. Okay. That moves it side to side. That moves it up and down. Okay, it does not want to extend and fill the whole screen. I can't do the vertical and hold the camera. Well, all we got here is a vertical size. We do not have any vertical linearity control on this. I'm not that familiar with these 7-inch sets. It's not something I've really ever got into because there's already a bunch of guys that are much better at it than me. But anyway, that definitely... I don't think the capacitors being disc could cause this. So I need to sit down with the schematic, and I bet we're missing something here. That definitely looks like a filtering issue to me. But it's weird, it only really shows up at the bottom. I mean, that is trinco-crinculating. I brought my chassis in, and we're going to take a look at how it performs with the disc capacitors. I was reading how that circuit works or looking at it, and it does not have a linearity control because it uses a balanced vertical output with two sections of a 6SL7 dual triode. So no linearity control. I guess it's just automatically linear because of the way it works. We could take a look at the schematic, but yeah, so I'm looking at mine, and somebody replaced the 5U4 with silicon diodes, which I'm not a huge fan of doing. It just drives a B plus up and causes everything else to have a shorter life. Not that you really worry about the life on something with this gigantic high definition CRT. But I'm going to solder this back on that I broke yesterday, and we'll take a look at how this actually performs. Maybe he got something off. Maybe the 6SL7 is bad. Maybe having 5 disc capacitors in parallel is screwing it up. I don't know. That's what we're here to find out. Well, here's what mine looks like. It's not great, but it's also not horrible. There's a little breaking up here. You can see where the lines don't meet, but they meet down at the bottom. Let me try and adjust this and get it a little better. Okay, so this is mine with the 2 red disc capacitors in series. And you can see it's not perfect. It's compressed at the bottom. It's a little compressed at the top, but it's not horrible. Probably wouldn't really notice that watching it, I mean, you are watching a 7-inch oscilloscope tube. The other thing that does bother me is this gap right here, how it almost looks like a jail bars with a shadow, you know, and it doesn't do that down at the bottom. That could very well be the disc capacitors, but it's nowhere near as horrible as his. So I think I'm going to hook his back up and we'll start changing parts. We'll just start swapping parts and trying to get to the bottom of it. I'll start with the 6SL7. So look at that. Let me get his dialed back in and we'll jump straight to his. Okay, here's jumping straight to his. And you can see the difference. And I switched the 6SL7. That right there, that's my 6SL7. So it is not the tube. I guess we could try swapping those capacitors. I don't see how the capacitors could cause this, though, because the capacitors are just coupling the plates of the 6SL7 to the deflection plates in the CRT. So you'd think if it was a linearity issue, it would be equal. The disc capacitors would be causing an equal linearity issue. But what do I know? I think mine is quite a bit brighter too. The other thing I'm wondering is this orange one right here is 4,700 picofarads at 6 kilovolts. Why did they use the two reds in series rather than just the 4,700? That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of there. Let's start with one of these. These are Soviet 4,700 picofarads at 6,300 volts, 6,300, 6.3 kilovolt. Gotta love the tolerance on these. Plus 85, minus 20. Wow. Yeah, it might be best to stick with the film capacitor. Alright, let's see what it looks like with those. Oh, well, I think it's better. Well, I was taking these and I was paralleling them and I lost my picture. Hope I didn't hurt the generator. Well, back to mine. It definitely did not hurt the generator. This one over here also has a filtering issue we should look at. But yeah, I'm going to have to probably say it's the disc capacitors causing the problem. Because it almost, mine, you know, with those disc capacitors, it almost looks about the same as mine, which is not perfect. Next experiment, these are 0.015 3 kilovolt. And I'm going to install them the way that they're in mine, where they're flipped, which I don't see how that could make any difference at all. They're kind of non-polarized, aren't they? Well, it looks sort of awesome, I guess you could say. And yeah, we've developed a problem here where it comes up and then it goes away. And yeah, that looks about the same as mine. Mine might look a little bit better, but we'll see if it'll do it this time. It comes up and then the signal goes away. We've also got this AC hum thing. I need to take a look at that. I mean, that's almost probably tolerable. Oh, check that out. Check out how there's a shift there. And it's not going to do it. Now, that's almost tolerable. So the problem is definitely his parallel disc capacitors. Now, I'd like to look around the house here and see if I can find some type of film or paper capacitor that's rated at that high voltage. Let's try these. These are about the closest thing I could find. Plastic capacitor INC. These are 10 times too big. They're 0.5 at 10 kilovolts. I don't know if going bigger really makes any difference. I kind of doubt it. I don't think these are part of a tuned circuit, but what do I know? All they're doing is coupling the output of the vertical deflection to the CRT, but I guess they could still, CRT has capacitance, right? So I don't know, but let's try these plastic capacitors. Well, it sort of looks like it seems to like these. Look at this. Totally different. And notice how at the top it's compressed. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Well, these are really looking good. So it does not like disc capacitors. So we can, for 100%, say that disc capacitors don't work very well in these things. Now these, like I said, these are way oversized, but they're plastic capacitors. I don't even know. But you see there's no stepping here. There's no jail bar type gaps. They really need the film capacitors. Next test, we have in parallel 3 2,200 picofarads. So this equals 6,600 and the stock is 5,000. This would probably almost be usable, except the gaps. Yeah, this would probably be usable. I guess it all depends on, is the TV going to be a novelty and you want to just get it working? You're not going to watch it maybe to show it to friends now and then. Or do you want it to have like a really stellar picture? I'm gonna look and see who has these capacitors and what they cost. Well, on Mauser you can get either a 5% or a 10%, 4,700 picofarad, and it looks like they're about $2.25 a piece. Same thing on DigiKey, $2.11 a piece. I guess that's not too bad. I wonder what happens if you buy them in bulk. Do you get any kind of discount here? Yeah, so $17 for 10 of them. That's not bad if you wanted to do a bunch of these sets. So these capacitors here that you see connected right there are from DigiKey. And these are 10,000 picofarad at 3 kilovolts. So they are the same value as those 2 red Soviet ones there. So we got 2 here, 2 here, but they do not make the same picture that the red Soviet ones do. Look at that. Look at how it's compressed at the bottom. And this is back to the red Soviet ones, which these are almost usable. These are like the ones that are in my set. So not all disc capacitors are created equal. These are bigger and they work better. Here's back to the 4,700s. I think the 2 red ones might be a little better. And then here's back to the 3 in parallel, which is even a little better. That's probably almost usable. Let's go back to what he had. In fact, that's pretty damn good. Yeah, the linearities. Look at how it's like zigzaggy there. Yeah, the linearity is a little clinky tinkler at the top and bottom, but you know what? You'd never notice that watching it. And this is back to what he had in it, which is the worst. So the 5 blue capacitors in parallel are garbage. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm glad somebody's documenting this. What the hell else is AI going to reference to when somebody asks it what kind of capacitors should I use in a 1950s 7-inch electrostatic deflection TV. I mean, what's ChatGPT going to answer if I hadn't created this video for it to grab this data? There's almost like a zigzaggy thing there. Let me go back to the plastic capacitors. Here's back to the plastic capacitors, and yeah, that's undoubtedly the best. We still have the zigzaggy thing. Maybe I should put an actual picture to it. Here's a whole bunch of disc capacitors in parallel. And the linearity gets better, but I still get that gap at the top. So back to doing this again. So there are multiple problems here with this thing. If I turn it off and let it sit, and then it'll come back up and it'll behave. Well, the tuner intermittently works on channel 3. It seems to consistently work on channel 4. And I'm not sure what I'm looking at here, but it sure looks like this has been clincodrinculated. So there we got, what is that? Is that a hair? What is that? Okay, so let me get the hair out of the tuner. So there we got 2, 2. There we got 13, 13, 12, 12. But why have we got 3 and 4 matched together and we have no 4? Let me move that down one. Well, this is what the picture looks like. And I don't think this is the capacitors. The capacitors are causing a linearity issue, and it looked okay on the generator, but this is not what it should look like. I don't even think Content ID will be able to recognize that. That's so far out. I'm going to start flipping some tubes with mine, but I think might be a tuner issue. I look down in here, and I see that he's put metal film resistors in the tuner. I would never take carbon resistors out of a high frequency thing like the tuner and replace them with metal film. Never. So I don't know, if he got in the tuner, he might have screwed it up. Doesn't work good with the converter box. In fact, yeah. Well, I changed the 6AG5 RF amp. I changed all of them, and that was the only one that seemed weak. And yes, I am down in here with a screwdriver turning the oscillator tuning coil in the middle of the tuner strip. And that's about as good as I can get it. Yeah, I don't know. The sound is also way off from the video because I keep turning the core in, and the sound gets loud and the picture goes away. Okay, well this is horrible because what I'm doing is I'm literally tweaking the IF alignment with my hands. Is this like sizzling? See that? It looks like blurry in the camera, but it's more like sizzling, like noise. Is that the capacitor? The capacitors in the horizontal? See what I mean? There's like a real quick jitter in it. It's not like RF noise, it's... God, that looks horrible, but... You know what I need to do? I need to order the right capacitors for this. Wow, that looks... I don't know even how to describe that. But yeah, the 2-finger IF alignment really helped. If you could call it a help. So this is my set. You can see there's none of that fuzzy interference. If you look at the edge here, it's pretty, well, I I don't know, this thing doesn't want to focus on it, but look at the difference. So what I was thinking about doing is grounding the video through a capacitor. I need to try and find out where that noise is getting into the set, into the picture. What I did is I just took and pulled that to ground through a film capacitor, a couple microfarad. That kills all the video going into the CRT. You can see I have a pretty nice straight edge there. See that? Let's try that on the other set. So on this one, when I ground it through the capacitor, the video, I get a nice clean edge there too. But see how it smears there? See how it's like alternate vertical lines are switching? And I think I see a problem here. I think this might be hooked up wrong. Let me analyze that. Actually, that is correct. I was not looking at it right. I had the red and the yellow wire flipped. The yellow wire goes to the brightness control, then to the 1 meg, then to the capacitor, and the capacitor is feeding the AC video to the red wire up to the CRT cathode. I'm going to do a quick and dirty alignment on this using the micro signal generator and not sweep. I'm not going to really cover it in this video. If you're interested in TV alignment, Bob Anderson's doing a thorough series on that. I'm just going to straighten it out because I went and started turning these damn things to try and get the picture the best, which is not the right way to do it. Right there, that little ring on the tuner, that's the signal input. Then we simply, I'm just going to use my fluke meter. I'm not going to go with a VTVM. This is going to be quick and dirty. I'm just going to go through and peak these at the right frequency. There's only 2 frequencies and there's 4 adjustments. You peak 2 at each frequency. So I'm just going to knock that out. I might cover a little bit of it. Also chatting with Bob, he mentioned, you know, that there's a lot of high voltages in this thing, which there are, a lot of static, you know, and it's important that you use high voltage rated resistors. Resistors have a breakdown voltage rating, and you don't want to use cheap, you know, resistors from the local parts house, which is what this has in it. That might be our noise problem, and that might be very difficult to figure out. Feeding the signal generator in there, I'm on 25.3 megahertz, and I'm just adjusting 2 for this frequency and 2 for the other frequency, and I'm just kind of peaking them. I was actually pretty close on a couple of them. These are not the problem. Now, IF alignment is, on something like this is, yeah, it makes a difference. I don't want to underestimate it, but at the same time, you're using a converter box. There's not a lot of adjacent crap, you know. It's damn, I was real close just aligning them by eye. I shouldn't say that because that is not the right way to do it. But just kind of peaking for maximum contrast, I was really close. And this is interesting. I pulled video IF 1, 2, 3 out, and I pulled the detector out, and I still got the noise. If I pull the video amp out, the noise goes away. If I pull the video amp out, the noise goes away. Well, for one thing, the sensitivity of this tuner is atrocious. I'm assuming it's the tuner. I don't know for sure. But that's a full 5 volts, 5,000 microvolts. If I go down to 500, nothing. And that's with the other 2. But let's pop mine up here and see how it works. I wonder if the RF amp is not getting any plate voltage, because I pop a cold tube in there and I don't see a warm up. Like I'm going to pop this one in there. So I'm going to pull the other one out. Barely see the circle there. Now I'm going to pop a totally cold one in there, and there's no warm up to it. As soon as you... See, I mean, as soon as you put it in there, it's the same thing, and it doesn't like improve as the tube would warm up. You know, you would think you'd pop it in cold and it would be weak, right? Just the signal flowing through the RF amp capacitively. Then as the filament warmed up, it would start conducting and start amplifying. It's like there's no plate voltage on the RF amp. Let me get mine up here and compare it. This is my chassis. That's at 5,000 microvolts. That's at 500. You can see the AGC. That's 500, 5,000, 500. That's about 50 microvolts. So let's see if I go down here. That's 50 microvolts. So my TV produces the same picture on 50 microvolts RF input as his TV produces on about 700 and, no, about 1,000. So mine does on 50 what his does on 1,000. So let's try the RF amp tube. All right, that's 500. Okay, I'm going to pull the RF amp out. We go up to 5,000. Okay, nothing. Okay, I'm going to go to 500. I'm going to give the tube a minute to cool off. All right, it's been cooling off for a little bit. I'm going to plug it in right now. Okay, I plugged it in. And that's what I would expect to happen. As it warms up, you see it start amplifying. Why is it not doing that on his? Let me see if we're missing a plate voltage on this. Let me measure it. So 5 and 6 should have B plus on them. And they get their power through a 2.2K. And it's the same, it gets us from the same place as right here. It goes up to the plate of the oscillator. So let's check on my set. So possessive. I am so possessive of my set. You will own nothing and be happy. Well, I will own everything and I will be unhappy. So let's check pin 5 and 6 on here. I'm just going to pull the tube out and we'll measure it. So on this one, we'll go into pin 5 and 6. So on pin 6, we have 165 volts. On pin 5, we have 165 volts. That's what I would expect. Okay, on him's set, we have 0 volts there, and on pin 5, we have 0 volts. So absolutely no surprise there. That's what's causing this noise? Is this noise just a function of a lack of RF drive, like as in when we get enough signal strength into this thing, is it actually going to overpower that noise? I don't know. Is that noise caused by one of these cheap resistors, low voltage resistors breaking down? I don't know. But I know that that is a problem, and it's kind of weird how I figured that out, but that's kind of the point of having the VG91, and that's the point why I grabbed the VG91, because it has an RF level. That leader, the leader generator, I don't know, that thing must just put out like 8 or 10 volts. It's hot because that's why the signal from the stupid converter box is probably 1 volt, 1,000 microvolts. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, starting to get into a gray area for me, RF. So I wonder why there's no voltage there. And as I mentioned earlier, I noticed that there was one of the resistors had been replaced. Well, somebody has been in here, because those two screws are not the same. That is a metal film resistor right there, and I'm trying to figure out how to get in this thing. It might be able to find that resistor and, well, or figure out what's wrong with this if I could get this rotating assembly out. And it looks like it just comes out, but it looks like I gotta take the tuner out of the chassis first. Not fun. Well, removing that exposed nothing of value. There is another resistor down in here that was changed. See that one right there? Red, yellow, red. Was that 242? 2.4K? What would we have? I do not see a 2.4K in here. The only thing I see is the 2.2 that I'm suspicious of, but I do not see a 2.4K in here. Yeah, and if I didn't say this already, don't replace carbon resistors in a tuner with metal film. Get carbon resistors, because they can affect RF. The type of resistors can affect RF, just like the type of resistors need to be rated for high voltage. Resistors are not just like totally passive, anonymous items. They need to have the right one. I see the resistor I'm suspicious of. See this yellow, see this purple right here? That's the resistor right there. Red, red, red. And it is in the worst possible place. I'm trying. Right there. See it underneath that? Red, red, red. It's right there. I'm going to get a pick and pick at that wire, because I cannot see where it connects up on top here. How would you change that? I believe we might have lucked out here, because it's broken right here. It solders to this red wire is where the power comes into the tuner. So what we need to do is figure out how to solder this back onto here, which is oh boy, the barbecue roller just flaked out. Yeah, I got to strip some of this off. Oh, maybe not. I now have 2.2K ohms to the tube socket here, the RF amp, and I managed to solder it. It was not easy. I was able to pull it and strip it back and wrap it around there. I think I need a chiropractor now, because that was not easy. All right, let's see if we have any difference here. We actually have static now. But why do we have this? It's like it's completely overloaded now. Okay, let me see. I'm on channel 3. There we go. All right. Wow. 5,000 millivolts. 500. 50. So that's decent, right? But we still have the noise. If you look at this, there's still the noise. I'm wiggling the tubes around. But it's not clean. It's still got that. I mean, I can largely override it now. Like there, I just blow it out. Signal to noise ratio, right? Yeah, the sparkly thing is still there. That's going to make it look blurry.
Wherever I am. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes.
Ding dong, complete.
Well, that certainly made a big difference.
Premium collection at fanatics.com. Stylish fan gear for fashionable fans. Shop wear by Aaron Andrews, DJ and Live, Curious Rucker, Mitchell and Ness, and more. Fanatics.com. Officially licensed everything.
With Lemonade Health, I can order my erectile dysfunction medication from anywhere, right from my phone.
Ooh, I love my erectile dysfunction.
Plus, it gets shipped right to my front door. Because after all, some things are just better at home. Visit lemonadehealth.com.
It's a bit unstable.
¡Amor mío! ¡Mira quién vino! ¡Es mi abuelo!
¡Felicidades, mía!
¡Felicidades por tu español!
¡Gracias!
¡Adiós! ¡Ayúdame a mí! ¡Una foto!
Boy, this is the difficult one right here. It almost looks like the vertical oscillator is not stable. Duh. Well, I grounded the integrator, so I killed the vertical sync, and right there, and I just got I grounded it right here, right at that 6800. So that kills the vertical sync pulse, and it's still wigging out. Trying to figure out where this issue is coming from. So when you lock the vertical sync, like let me do that, disconnect my ground, then I got to readjust the hold. Okay, this is not right here. This is the sync separator, and this resistor is not even on the schematic, and it's not in my other set. This is supposed to be a 12K, and this is brown, blue, orange. So what is blue? 6? This is 16K? That's probably not too far out, but what is this going to ground? That should not be there. That is this right here, the 12K from B plus to the plate of the sink amp. Then you have a 50 picofarad that feeds the horizontal. Then this comes down here to 100 ohm, or I'm sorry, 100K that feeds the integrator to the vertical. So this right here is the integrator. What's interesting is they replaced the integrator capacitors on my set. I'm going to get this out of here. I don't think that's supposed to be there. If I ground the sync signal, of course I lose sync, but it doesn't seem like it's jumping the same. Well, this trash is on the sink. This is the sink separator. I have no signal right now, and I have the detector tube pulled out, and I still don't think this should be doing this. This is the horizontal with the input to the sync separator grounded. That's if I unground the input to the sync separator. That's with sync. So this trash is coming in through the sink. This is the vertical. This is if I ground the input to the sink. Ungrounding it. So this trash is coming into the sync separator. It's the input to the sync separator. I'm going to take it off a channel. You can see it's still there. You can see it there. It's off a channel. I think it's in this stage right here. Because even if I ground right here, this 10K, I'm still getting it on the output on pin 2. So it's like it's something in here. And I switched these tubes around and it didn't fix it. I bet it is this damn 1 meg plate load resistor on this tube. It almost has to be. Well, no, that's not it. I was hopeful, but wrong. Well, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. Thanks to the termites. The termites woke me up, and if you don't believe that, I'll insert a video clip here. They got into some old speaker boxes, some old Crunch speaker boxes from the 90s, Crunch car audio. And they'd actually done this in the same place before, these subterranean termites. I'm going to have to go under the house and lay down the law, because these things are vicious. But anyway, you can hear them. They make kind of a sawing noise, kind of a noise. And in the dead of the night, they're actually pretty damn loud. Yeah, I can't hear much above 12 kilohertz anymore. That's why I can't. Anyway, I don't hear these things, these TVs screaming, but I can hear termites in the wall, in boxes. So had to get up and clean that up. Anyway, these are termites. This is sort of interesting. This is the all the cardboard and those speakers that the termites were eating. Look at all the moisture that was in it. I put it in a plastic bag and it's been out in the sun. They were transporting moisture up to help dissolve, help them digest, I guess, the cellulose. You can see the bag is full of water. That's pretty interesting, to me anyway. Here's a Crunch 8-inch woofer filled with dead termites. Back to this real quick. I think the way to do this is I'm going to hook the sink separator back up, and we're going to find that noise again, and I'm going to start pulling tubes, because that noise could be being introduced anywhere in this circuit. It could be one of these little blue capacitors. It could be one of these mica capacitors. It could be a resistor, and you know, it'll get in the power supply and it'll travel through the whole damn TV. So I'm going to hook everything back up and then start pulling tubes, and hopefully that'll help isolate it down. Put everything back together. I went to the single 4700 picofarad capacitor. They don't work quite as well, but just to solve this other noise problem, it kind of cleans things up. They're a lot smaller, probably less radiated noise. This resistor right here, this 4.7 meg, this is going to have some high voltage pulses on it. That could be a problem. That's probably a 3 to 500 volt resistor, and it's probably got 4,000 volts across it. That's why they used this big long, these two go to the plates of the vertical output. And that's why they use this big long resistor here. This is for high voltage. This is meant to withstand, you know, a couple thousand volts from end to end. This is not. So something like this could be introducing the noise. The same thing with all of these. These are probably 3 to 400 volt capacitors. There are ratings for voltage on the spec sheet. And these are, you know, you got 4,000 volts here, 4 to 5,000 volts. I don't know, we could measure it, but it's going to be pretty high. Okay, the high voltage in this set is 4,600 volts. Let's see what's on this resistor. Oh, 1,000. On this side of the resistor there is 300. That's still too much drop across that resistor. Let's see what the drop is across these. 4,000 on the other side of it. 3,000. 1,000 volts drop across each one of these resistors. Let's see, what do we have here? 4,600, and here we have 2,000. So 500 volts drop across each one of those. That's probably right at the limit of what they're rated for. Let's see what we got on these capacitors. Well, that was good. 4,000 volts on one side, 300 volts on the other. You know, when we first started this, and we had the bad linearity issue with the original capacitors, we did not have this sync problem, this noise problem. But he described this to me as one of the complaints. It seems like we didn't get this until we fixed the RF amp, until we fixed the tuner. That's when this started. This is coming straight out of the video out on the generator, going into the video amp. and it is rock solid. It's weak, but it's rock solid. Now, while probing this, I found that this capacitor is not soldered very well. So I'm going to solder that. I don't know if that's it. I think I'm getting closer. It appears this problem is either in the IF or the tuner, because like I said, if I go into the video... Now, the next challenge with this is a 25 megahertz IF, and the only thing I have that will do that is a BNK 1077. So I might have to set that up here and go into start back probing through the IF, because all these little ceramic capacitors, and oh man, what if this is not silver, there is no silver mica in this, but there's a bunch of tubular ceramics. And he did a bunch of work in here too. Man, don't ever do work on the IF unless a bunch of, again, metal film resistors in the IF strip. Yeah, I would avoid that. Well, it's not the IF tubes, because I just swapped them all out. It's not the RF amp that we worked on, because I just bypassed it with a capacitor pin grid to plate. So it's not that. This is a B&K 1077 television analyst. This is kind of a do-all, but what it does do is it does the old IF frequency. It'll go down to 20 megahertz, so we can feed it directly in. So I sent him a message and I said, you know, what's the problem with this thing? And he said it won't hold a still image. And then he said it mainly won't hold a clear and steady image without getting distorted when the image changes. And here is a video he sent of it. Does not look like he had a lack of RF sensitivity here. So anyway, is this a AGC problem maybe? It's holding a clear image here. Pretty stable. But if I go up in amplitude at all, it starts to lose it. Or if I go up here, and then I turn the contrast down, it's back to this nonsense again. So let's try some experiments. Let's start feeding into the IF. And we'll start with the third IF, pin 1, and we'll just work our way back. Well, going into the third IF, I mean, there it is. It's not unstable, but it's not locked in the correct position. So I get back to the second IF, and it starts to get unstable. Maybe I should ground the AGC. Well, I believe I found a problem. See this capacitor right here? 0.22, 224. See where it's connected right there? It's supposed to be connected on one lug down. See how there's two? See right here, there's two 220 ohm resistors. See red, red, brown, and then underneath it there's red, red, brown. And then that wire there, that brown wire continues down here to this tin. Ooh, that looks baked. Baked. It continues down to this 10K, pin 1 of this 10K. That is the AGC control, and that AGC filter is connected to the wrong place. It should be one down. And you know what? I believe I have one of these chassis untouched that I just picked up. Let's go look. So see right here, see that 1,000 picofarad? That's where it's connected right now. But see where those two 220s come together? If we follow that over here, there's another 1,000, but then the 0.22 is right here. See right there? Let's try that again. Actually, it's supposed to be a 0.25. So 0.22 will work, but it's supposed to be there connected to the two 220 ohm resistors, not to the back side of one of them. This is the AGC line. Let's go look at the other chassis. Here, this one's all original. See what the capacitors originally looked like? Oh, interesting. This one has the capacitor that mine has. That's interesting. The one that was disconnected. But anyway, you can see how these are the real long high voltage resistors. Again, I can't believe they actually built something like that, but okay. But yeah, as you can see this is the 0.22 right here. It's a 0.25. See where it's connected? It's connected right there where the two 220 ohm resistors come together. So he has it connected in the wrong spot. Oh, that would be a dream come true. That would be a dream come true if it fixes it. So lesson here is take pictures. And I'm sure he did that. And it's real easy to make a mistake like this. But take pictures, a lot of pictures, and check your work. Recap one at a time. Not cut 10 of them out and then change them. Not saying he did that, but just as a lesson. It's real easy to make a mistake. Well, we still got vertical roll going into the IF. Well, unfortunately, that does not look like it was the fix. Bummer! I thought I had scored there. You know, I'm starting to wonder if this overheated resistor right here is the cause of the problems, because I scratch it. See that? I scratch that resistor. And look at that, it totally crashes. Not scratching it, scratching it. Let me change that. I replaced that roasted 1K plate load resistor. That resistor supplies the B plus to the plate of the third IF tube. I replaced it with a 1 watt carbon. It measures exactly 1K. It's right on. I gotta say this. I don't like these Chinese, these Taiwanese cheap, crappy Taiwanese metal film resistors in this. I don't like them in the IF. I don't like them in the tuner. I don't like them in the RF section. I just, no. I mean, I don't necessarily mind things like that, but these cheap half watt, no. These, if you're going to do these, buy the ones that are rated for voltage on DigiKey. Yeah, I know these are cheap, but they're junk. They're okay for a transistor radio or, you know, something light duty, but not a tube TV with high voltages. All right, we're warming up here. One of these times I'm going to turn it on and it's going to kind of work. Is it going to be this time? Oh, maybe if I hook the analyzer up to the IF. Well, you know, it's hard to tell. It looks better in a way. Yeah, I think it's better. Let me go into the channel 3. Well, I gotta say it. Well, maybe not. Seems better, but it doesn't. Maybe I change this other one too. Change this other 1K. I don't like these carbon. I don't like these crappy resistors. Sorry. So this trash that we're seeing on the screen, and I went back and looked through the video, and it seemed like it started after I worked on the tuner. This trash is coming out of the tuner. Look at this. That is the signal coming out of the tuner with both tubes removed out of the tuner and the first IF tube. So, does this tuner have an AGC line that goes into it? Let me see. Let me look at that. I disconnected the lead from the tuner, going to pin 1 of the first IF tube, the signal, and nothing. Then I took this 300K and I put it to ground, simulating putting a load on the output of the tuner. When I do that, it goes completely nuts. Look at this. Watch if I remove the load. Well, that's just noise because I got a long wire on it. But when I remove the load, nothing. See? As soon as I put the load back on the output of the tuner, it starts to go absolutely, completely clinky dinkler. Look at this. So what would do that? What would do that? I mean, it would almost have to be one of those. Is this silver mica disease? Is that what this is? Is this frickin' silver mica disease in that can? No way. That's the alignment can right here. This. Alignment 4. That almost, I think this is silver mica disease. I do. I'm going to try pounding on this can. Let me take the load off of it. I'd like to see if I could see that in the picture. Well, now it's rock solid. I put it back together and now it's rock solid. Look at this. I'm going to tap on the can. I think it's silver mica disease. Now it wants to behave. I'm going to let it run for a minute. Yeah, I pretty much confirmed it without a doubt. Man, I've got a lot of time into that. But silver mica disease. And we usually don't think of silver mica disease in TVs too bad because See how they have the open IF transformers with the ceramic tubular ceramic capacitors? But this has all the symptoms, and I've never seen silver mica disease in a picture before. But I got to think about this. Do I want to pull that thing off of there? And I think we've gone too far not to. We got the value of the capacitors in it. We just need to get to and recap it. Slept on this overnight, and that's always a good thing to do, especially when you're running into multiple problems and they kind of are overlapping and interlacing and driving you nuts. Anyway, I thought about a way to test this capacitor that could be silver mica that I'm suspicious of. And what I did is I disconnected the output of the tuner, and I got it just connected to the voltmeter here. And here's what you're looking at. So this is the capacitor I'm suspicious of. This is the alignment. All this stuff is in that IF can. I'm going to call it an IF can, but anyway, it's one of the alignment points. So I have this line here disconnected. This, of course, goes over to the plate of the mixer. So what I want to do is I want to check the voltage here. If I see DC voltage here, that capacitor is leaky. So let's see what's happening. Make sure that I get this plugged in. Yeah, there we go. That capacitor is definitely leaky. And look at, you can even see the noise in it. Look at the bar graph at the bottom of the scope, the meter. So that capacitor right there is what's causing this issue, without a doubt. And it is inside that can right there that says 31A054. So we're going to have to take that can out and get to these capacitors. And we should probably change both of them while we're in there. 10 picofarad and 130. Let me look at the riders. So here's the riders version. It's a bit higher resolution, but there you go. So we need to get in there. We might need to change all of these. I would like to use carbon resistor, and I don't know if they're mica wafers or if they're these tubular ceramic capacitors. These do seem to be more reliable, these tubular ceramics, but I have seen them carbon track, especially in like Grundig radios and German radios. So yeah, we need to get in there and change these capacitors inside that can. You know, I need to look back through the video because I don't remember this thing doing this until I soldered that broken resistor back on right there. So I don't know if I caused this or it started doing it when the signal strength got high again because I reconnected the resistor. I don't know. I need to look back through the video, but I almost think I might have caused it by heating that lug up. Alright, here it is. This is the wire with the grommet around it is the output. Let's open this thing. So let's look at this. There's the coil. There's your 15K resistor. And there's your mica wafer. Look at that. That's just spectacular. So it's definitely silver mica disease. It's the first time we've ever seen silver mica disease in video, I think. But this should be easy enough to cut out and replace with mica capacitors. Wow, look at that. That's, yeah. Not even sandwiched, it's just made. The 15K is measuring 18K. Not far enough out for me to screw with it. This is absolutely, definitely a place where you would not want to switch the carbon resistor for a metal film. You would not want that in this RF situation. So this is the actual capacitor right here. This is a mica wafer. And up here is a, I don't know, what do they call this? Is it silver? It's a like a metal deposited on this side that's connected to this lead. And then on the bottom, there's metal deposited that connects to this lead. Well, you can actually see the silver migration here. I don't know if I can, what they call silver migration. I don't know if I can show it, but where it's arcing. If you look there, see the ring, see the light going through? See where the light's going through around the pin? That should be clear. See how it's all crusty? It's all black and oxidized. There should also be a 10 picofarad in here. I'm going to have to change both of them. I'm just going to cut this wafer out and solder new capacitors. Here's the 10 picofarad right here. It's this. So this is where B plus comes in. This is where I heated it up. So I don't think I caused this. So B plus comes in right here, where I'm touching it, through the 15K resistor to one lead of the coil. Then this is ground over here on the left. This is ground. Then there's a 10 picofarad from here to here. And that's this strip in the mica. And then over here on the output, you have, let's see, rotate this around. This is the bigger 130 picofarad right here. So yeah, they're capacitors that are printed directly on mica, and they're extremely stable, and they're extremely tight tolerance, and they're extremely stable. When it says 130 picofarads, it's probably like 0.5%, and they're extremely stable, but they're going to get deleted here. And I'd like to put 2 or 5% in, but it depends on what I can get. This needs to be these need to be fairly high voltage capacitors, like 500 volts. I'm going to do something a little unconventional here. We've done it before if you follow this channel. I got B plus connected to the transformer where it's supposed to be. And then I got the output connected through this 300K to ground, which I could just put it straight to ground. I'm going to power it up and look at the wafer through the night vision and see if we can see the arcing. I can often see it. You absolutely can see it. See it there? It's arcing in several places. See that? Anyway, solid diagnosis there. I just went locally and picked up a couple of these. They did not have 130, but they had 270 NPO, NP0. And you can see this is pretty damn close. So put 2 of these in series. I got the 10 picofarad. I did not want to go with disc capacitors. If this was some prime specimen set, I would want to go with silver mica. Silver mica capacitors are about $5 a piece now. I also picked up the resistors that were wrong. This resistor here, I got the right resistor. So you get two 270 NP0s in series, you get 134. That should be okay. We have a lot of flexibility with alignment here. We just want to be close and we don't want a lot of drift. Here's the 10, which is a little low, or the meter's not perfect. The other thing about these capacitors, in this circuit, you have 100. I also got the printed schematic here. But on these capacitors, these are not like silver mica in an AM radio where they're in parallel with an IF transformer coil. These things have full voltage across them. If you look at this, this has plate voltage across it. So you can't just go with a low voltage capacitor. You can't go with a 50 volt silver mica. You have to go with at least a 500 volt silver mica, because there's quite a bit of power, quite a bit of voltage potential across these two capacitors. So yeah, you probably really need 500 volt capacitors, which this one is a 1 kilovolt, and I think those are either 3 or 500 volts. So in series, this setup will be good. I believe it's time to lambicluke my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis with Rinvoq. Is that kind of like when you develop a beef allergy from too much safe and effective? I don't know. It all depends on the flavor of your plaque psoriasis. So I got an order in here from DigiKey, and since I was putting in an order anyway for the right film capacitors for this, I decided to buy the silver mica capacitors for this. So I obtained a heavy breathing, too much Rinvoq. Rinvoq arouses me. So I got 130 picofarad silver mica, and I got a 10 picofarad silver mica. Now these are 5%. These come in 1%, and they're about $26 each. These are about $5 each. So these silver micas are not cheap. These are a lot cheaper. These were like $1.70 a piece, the 6 kilovolt 4700 picofarad. And I got some little surface mount transistors for our Packard Bell color test set. You'll see that video somewhere if you follow all of this that deep. And I got some 1K carbon film resistors, which were kind of a stupid purchase. But anyway, yeah. Let's Rinvoqificate this. We'll cut out the mica wafer and then install the two silver mica capacitors. Well, there's what's left of the mica wafer. And here are the two new capacitors installed. There's the 130. There's the 10. I think we're ready to put this thing back together and get our Rinvoq on.
This is an exclusive announcement from Wyndham Hotel. Your telephone number was pre-selected to receive a complimentary stay. Please wait. Thank you for holding. My name is Gabby. Here I have the pleasure of speaking with.
I just didn't really see any nibbler. Should have said my name was Rinvoq, but you know, when you're in the middle of concentrating on reinstalling an IF can, you're not thinking about doing phone freaky phone freakage. Anyway, I think I got this thing back installed right. I did take pictures of it ahead of time. I do believe that grommet that's down here is supposed to be here, but I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, I think we're happy here. Everything matches the pictures. I was careful not to overheat and cause the thing to melt on the inside. So we'll put the tuner wheel back in and get our Rinvoq on. all back together, I believe. Functionality will confirm that. It does need to be fully aligned again, so I'll have to do that. We'll do that later. Let's see how the performance is, and then we can replace these with the proper film caps. Let's just see if we get that lightning out. I mean, if you didn't follow, the arcing in the first IF can, the silver mica disease, was causing that crap to propagate all the way through the IF into the sink. So I was seeing that noise in the sink separator circuit. So I figured it was from something in the sink circuit because it kept rolling in that. Because we didn't hear it in the audio. But I guess since the audio is FM, it was just rejecting all of that automatically, which is sort of interesting. The video being AM, it was showing up in the video in the sync, but not the FM audio. So anyway, Rinvoke. Well, that definitely fixed the stability issue. It does seem a little lackluster on the sensitivity. I'm going to go down. That's 500 microvolts going into the tuner. You can see some noise there. If I bring it up to about 1,000, 1,500, it definitely cleans that up. If I go up to 5,000, it totally gets rid of it. But this should produce a signal on 50 microvolts. It really, well, that should be 50 microvolts. It really doesn't. That's 50 to 500. That's 500 microvolts. This thing is a little soft in the sensitivity department. That's 5,000. So maybe an alignment will help wake that up. Let me make sure I get everything connected right. I mean, you could just barely see it at 50 microvolts, and I would expect a little bit more than that. Once again, an alignment might bring it out. So we'll do that. Let's change those capacitors. Let's look at this. Now let's change these capacitors. For film, and let's see what kind of different response we get. And here they are. Like I said, if you buy 10 of them, they're about $1.80 a piece. I do like these heavy-duty Soviet disc capacitors, though. They just feel heavy-duty, but they're not cutting it in the meat department. Yeah, I got our film capacitors installed, and I will say I do think it improved it. Is it perfect? No. Can I adjust it and get it perfect? No. Like, maybe close, though. It's definitely better than the other capacitors. Let me adjust it, see where I can get it. Well, I can't say that it's perfect. As far as the linearity goes, I mean, it's okay. I guess it's usable. It's a lot better than it was when we started, but yeah, it's maybe 20% better than the Soviet disc caps. But the next thing we need to do is get a picture on it, because he said it was going nuts and rolling and stuff when it had an actual picture, like video from the converter.
He, as a transgender man, was discriminated against, saying that they were trying to determine which holding cell he would go into. They made him show them his private parts, which obviously to him he says was very disturbed by. The attorney for Emmett Brock, by the way, before the DA to whether or not he will trust the deputy. In his opinion, the deputy should be charged, he says, with multiple felonies. Okay?
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And this is developing news tonight in the WGA strike. The Hollywood Writers Union has received a counter proposal from the APTP, the group representing particular. It's the first the two sides have negotiated since before the strike began. More than 100.
I guess it's okay. I turned the brightness down a little bit. It's stable now.
And will have a response.
tweak the focus a little.
That's a major step in
Beyond, coming up in just a little bit. Back to you. Okay, Martina, thank you.
Sends it into right field.
Hey, this is wonderful breaking news tonight. The El Segundo All-Stars will be going to the Little League World Series after
Yeah, big difference with that IF can fixed and hooking that capacitor to the right place. I think we corrected it here. It's just
Coming up on the last 2 days of summer for LA USD students.
And if you're already thinking of going AWOL on day one, the district has plans to find you. I'm sorry about that. Head at 8.
Also at 8, the Justice Department announces a special counsel in the investigation into President Biden's son, Hunter.
Season means new routine
oh yeah, wear those masks. Just put those damn things on and wear them and for the rest of all time.
morning at 8 on Takedown News Morning, where we'll see you each weekday from 4 until
Only these no flat tires.
Well, I will admit it's not perfect.
Even over
It's pretty good,
I just love
but it's not perfect.
supermarket. Take it to the laundromat.
And maybe it's not supposed to be perfect.
They are really young and you want to go to the beach,
You
or maybe you have kids going to college.
can see what I mean there.
We all do, don't we? But what I love is, you can go, to those big box stores. And
I tried changing the tubes. Of course, it's been all recapped.
take that weight load off. This is what
I mean, do you notice that unless your eyes are right up on it? Not really.
all weather.
This is not setting any records in the definition department anyway.
So, Adam, I just absolutely love it. And the fact that it folds down flat is fabulous.
Carrie, if I may just...
Fabulous. It's fabulous.
We have 5 minutes left, which is just...
And we know everything about Richard, right? He's unbelievable.
And that's why-
Unbelievably fabulous.
You saw Richard on Shark Tank. If you're aware of Richard and you know his journey, he innovated what is being regarded by many as the very best product in its class in America today. There's nobody, in my opinion, that comes close to what Richard has done. Purple is now nearly sold out. I have fewer than 50 to go.
Imagine having a job where you have to be on live TV talking about a stupid suitcase with wheels on it. I mean, at what point do you just sign off and join the 50,000 other Americans that decided to delete themselves last year?
It's so easy to use.
Right, and I love that it is just so lightweight. But the
Oh, they just have to talk about it. I mean, it's a gift to just talk about something so meaningless.
you need to go to the laundromat or you have a kid who does, I'm just going to keep taking these out. You can feel free to count how many full-size towels. Oh, I'm just getting started.
So that was 7, 8.
I know, we've got
Nine.
beach towels,
I used to 10.
big ones, even bigger.
Trick 1, 12.
Oh, just look at how big it is. Step aside.
Really, but it really does. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. This is what it does. And then think again about how easy it is to just remove the fat, which by the way, can be independently used. What I like is that heavy duty canvas material.
Yes.
It's nearly indestructible.
Just shut
It can be
up.
light, clean,
Just
all weather. Again, we have 7 pockets. A couple of them inside are hidden pockets. So in case
so this is back to my set. It's crappy too. Maybe this thing just really wants paper capacitors. Maybe this one doesn't look quite as bad, but it is not great. Yeah, maybe these just need paper capacitors. After looking at mine now, I think it's developing silver mica disease. Look at it. It's starting to do what his was doing.
But it's just the best you could ever imagine. Why? Because it's indoor, outdoor, it's 100% machine washable, and the styles and the designs are fashion forward and functional. Welcome to my magic carpet. You will rock like this before. And who brings you such a run? Oh, maybe you've seen on TV for many years. It's Genevieve Gorda, and she's here in the studio with the official launch and
Tell you, the CRT is way better on mine. Look at that. Look at how bright and contrasty it gets.
In your home or on a television, but along the way, I've always been doing private design.
Yeah, the CRT on his is weak.
And now
On mine, you just barely get a picture at 50 microvolts. So we'll align his. Now mine is a little different. See how the transformer there is turned at a angle? I guess that's to minimize interference. Maybe that's the interference we're seeing in his. See how his is straight, mine's turned 45 degrees. This is the later production. Yeah, so we'll align this one, but I don't think we should expect this one to perform as good as this one. And mine has an okay picture with the disc capacitors, so I don't know. IF alignment time number 2, because we recapped the IF transformer, so we're going to do the simple thing. So we're going to do 25.3, and we're going to align 1 and 2, and then we're going to do 3 and 4 to 23.1. We're not going to sweep align this. Exceeds value of television. Now I'm going to use the HP 427 voltmeter. This is the same as a VTVM. It's like a 10 meg input, but it gives us a nice visual comfort of a meter. So we are on 25.3. We are going into the test point through a capacitor. We have the thing removed here, the oscillator section of channel 4, if you remember earlier in the video, is missing. So we're going to just peak up 1 and 2 here. Let's see. Okay, that one was peaked. Now we're going to do number 1. Yes, I did take a pencil and write the numbers on the chassis to make it easier. Okay, we're going to do number 1 now. You're supposed to keep it around 1 volt. So that would be about 750 millivolts, because that's 800 and then 1 volt on this scale. So go back to 2. So I had it pretty close. I did let it warm up for 10 minutes, like it says. Okay, let's change to the other frequency. What was it? 23.1. Let's see. 23.1. This thing is seriously handy compared to... Now I want to come up on the... Let's add about 10 dB to this. Let's see, let's go up 10 dB. That's too much. Let's come down 1 dB at a time. There we go. And now we do 3 and 4. So we'll do 3. Now this one, of course, is where I'd expect our biggest change, because we replaced the capacitors in it. and we actually seem to have affected it very little. Very negligible improvement here. I think what we should do next is take that parts chassis I got and just the all original one and just power it up and see what it does. So there we go. The IF alignment's been complete. The crude signal generator way of doing it. Okay, I'm going to change this resistor out. I got the appropriate value. And then I think we could call this a wrap. So the bandwidth looks okay. This thing really sort of has a kind of a crappy. Maybe I should try and switch that RF amp because I don't know, the bandwidth is okay. It could, I think, be a little better. I mean, you're not going to really expect a lot from this thing, you know. It's just, but it requires. Let me change the RF amp. Nah, that really doesn't improve it much. It still needs. See the noise in the picture? It still needs 1.5 volts on the input to really make it happy. It really starts to clean up about 4 volts, which, yeah, that's kind of high, but yeah, look at what it is. Let's see. I think we can ship this. I'm going to, let's look at the picture again and dial in the fine tuning.
Marilyn Meyer comes to my house every year for either Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we use that recipe every year to make the whipped cream.
Delicious.
Now, when it's in the TV, this portion is cut off. The bezel cuts off the top and bottom.
Right into that lemon drop martini that adds a little bit of sweetness with the lemon and then that cinnamon syrup.
Do not.
I would drink that all day. That feels so good.
Passion fruit daiquiri.
That one's straight out of Florida. There's mangoes, passion fruit, there's oranges. You put them all together. And it's just the most tropical, delicious blend of juice.
No delicious.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. All right, and then there are the festive holidays.
Oh, yes.
From a pocket, remove sleeve.
Oh, no, no,
There's 3 credit cards slapped into mesh pockets as well, zippered, and in fun colors. Warm apricot, cobalt, magenta, metallic silver, shiny black, and the very popular color block. And look at how much I could get in here. My planner.
Oh, yes, that seems to be a theme of this video. Look at how much you can get in here.
And a whole laptop is in here. All of this can fit in your new, beautiful tote. If you want to own yours, go down to the QR code below or go to hsn.com or use the app. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. My name is Valerie Steppen. It is a super special Saturday. We've got today's specials all day long. I've got a little hour of beauty. Okay, let me rephrase that. I've got a big hour of beauty. Deals lowest from some of your favorite beauty brands. These are all today's specials. So you have to stay with me. We have Tellurite and Tan Line.
Oh, yes, you have to stay with me. I got this thing pretty good. I'll give myself credit for that.
She's somewhere in the Smoky Mountain Range.
What's this guy's name? Earl Thomas Conley? Who did Smoky Mountain Rain? Anyway, let's plug that other one in, that one that's untouched. Just a correction, Ronnie Millsap did Smoky Mountain Rain. Probably had some people screaming at the computer. Is this actually him? I don't think so. This one looks all original, unmolested, untouched, uncleaned, paper capacitor filled. Let's just check it out real quick and then power it up and see what happens. I mean, I guess maybe we should sort of dim bulb it for a second, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time. Well, the first thing I see is someone put in a 6AL5 in here where there should be a 6AU6. A double diode is not going to work in there. What is that? Is that this? It's a stupid switching supply for the converter box. The problem is that is all filaments sucking all that power, and this has a rectifier that we need to get over that hump. We need to get over the hump of the filaments to where we can get the rectifier to heat up and start to hit the filters. So maybe I should get a bigger light bulb. Or maybe we should just cremate it. What do we say we just cremate it here? What's the worst that could happen? Here we go. Freaking bypass. I'm watching that because if the filters are shorted, that will start to red plate, which it's doing. This is a 5Y3. I think this is supposed to be a 5U4, isn't it? It's kind of a lightweight tube for a tube radio. It's for a radio, not a TV. Alright, well, you know what? This is a resurrection for a whole different video right here. I think we've already spent enough time on these Admirals in this video. Sometime in the future we can rock the acres and come in here and do another video on this one. But yeah, it's going to have shorted filters. And that's, if I let it go, that tube would have just blown up, that rectifier tube. It would have red plated, then it would have got almost white, then it would have started sparkling, and then it would have just blown the filaments out like a fuse. So, yeah, obviously the filters or something is shorted in this. Anyway, that was a very long video on Admiral 19A1.